Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Aulino, Michael Asiffo, and Aaron Zaretsky reporting for the game plan, and we're back here with our first roundtable of 2025. Big things going on there in WWE, and we're going to be talking about this Saturday, beginning of February, which is something different that WWE does, the Royal Rumble in February. Some big names announcing themselves for the Royal Rumble, including John Cena. So I'll start with you, Michael. What is your excitement level for this Royal Rumble this Saturday? And is there anything you hope that happens in this match?
I am excited because it's going to be John Cena's last Royal Rumble, as we all know. So it's going to be interesting to see what route they go. Does John Cena win the Royal Rumble? Does he get screwed? What number does he enter in at, too? That's another big one. So there's a lot when it comes to this whole John Cena thing that we want to know, like we want to find out. I think in terms of things I want to happen, I just want to see like any surprises. I'm not really like pulling for any winner entirely. So I guess I would say like, yeah, I would want John Cena to win because, he deserves that 17th world title. But I'm not really like pulling for him to win more so than like, let's say, a Roman Reigns or or any surprise entrant. Like The Rock would probably be a surprise entrant, let's be honest. And I'm not necessarily saying, oh, John Cena over The Rock, but it would be nice to see John Cena get the path to the 17th world title.
Aaron, a lot of big names already put themselves in the match. They announced their intention to go to WrestleMania. Is there one that's like realistic in your mind, or is there one that you're going to be following and rooting for throughout the match?
Yeah, like I can definitely see John Cena as a real possibility of winning it, because then it would tie him with Stone Cold Steve Austin for most Royal Rumble wins with 3. And then, with him being, as we all know, his last year, and then, that gives his path to WrestleMania for a heavyweight title shot. But then, yeah, like as Michael said too, like Roman Reigns, like he can definitely win that match, for sure, and then, continue with the bloodline, storyline and everything. And then, like, in terms of like not winning it, but more so just like surprise entrance, I'm kind of looking forward to see if the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion Joe Hendry will be participating in it. He might not be able to, since like Chris Jericho is having a wrestling cruise and Joe Hendry's supposed to be a part of it, which is also during the time of Royal Rumble. But if he does make an appearance, if he's just so fascinating to see in terms of like the crowd getting, behind him, singing his entrance theme song. And then also too, like, with John Cena being his last Royal Rumble, recently, Joe Hendry was on a podcast with Bubba Ray Dudley and Mark Henry, and he said that he would like to work with John Cena, hopefully one day. So if he were to, make an appearance at Royal Rumble, and then he enters the ring, and then if John Cena is in there, then, be a very cool moment.
Yeah, definitely. Just say his name and he'll be there.
Exactly.
But, I like that show because WWE, TNA, they have that partnership where they kind of had it with NXT, but now that they officially came out with it, we'll see a lot more NXT guys go on their programming. Maybe we'll see the Hardys pop up. I'd like to see Jeff Hardy as a surprise entrant, CM Punk in the ring, him and Jeff Hardy, that feud, that would be a pretty cool sight. But in terms of like surprise entrance, is it time for Brock Lesnar to be brought back to WWE?
Wow. That is wow. I mean, here's the thing. It's not like he left due to like contract disputes or like a falling out with the fan base, or like a falling out with the fan base due to like performance, right? He left because of a huge accusation on his part that kind of made him collateral. Or well, not on his part, but made him collateral to the whole saga that was Vince McMahon. So there is a moral question of, how culpable is Brock Lesnar in that whole thing? And based on that, is it acceptable for him to come into the WWE in the new era? Right. And because of that, it's so weird because I struggle with it due to the fact that, technically speaking, it's still not confirmed, or it's an alleged accusation, I guess is the word I'm trying to use. Right. And because it's an alleged accusation, then technically speaking, he should be able to return if he wants to, right?
Yeah.
And if he returns, then technically speaking, we as fans should be okay with it, or our pleasure or displeasure for him coming back should not be affected by that accusation. But at the same time, we're not idiots, and yeah, so I guess my answer to your question is that if I'm struggling this much, then probably not. Probably shouldn't come back, but yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron,
And
would you like
just
to
to
see
Brock
Brock?
Lesnar, his decision might depend on with Vince McMahon, right? Because Vince McMahon recently had a settlement with the ongoing allegations that he was facing. So possibly if Vince were to come back to WWE in maybe some role capacity, then that might persuade Brock to come back as well.
I just wanted to see that press conference at the end. So Brock, if he were to ever speak to the media, which is a snowball's chance in hell, I'd like to hear his thoughts on that. But him just being brought back, I'd be interested to see the reaction, because they have mentioned him on TV, and then you go on Twitter and you just see the reaction oh, Brock's coming back. There seems to be excitement, but then you do see the other side of it where morally he's technically still involved in an ongoing lawsuit, I guess. He's not involved per se, named, but it's kind of implied. So I see why it might be best if he wasn't in the match. But if he were to be in it, is there a wrestler on the roster? I'll start with you, Aaron, that maybe would be the best feud for him going into WrestleMania?
For him going into WrestleMania, yeah, there's definitely maybe a Seth Rollins, maybe yeah, because Roman Reigns is currently with his own feud, but yeah, there's possible guys like Rollins or maybe Cena as well, right? You'd always have you beat Brock versus John Cena again, or maybe if The Rock, maybe him, maybe they could incorporate something with him with The Rock. Can definitely select some of those guys, and it would be nice too, if he were to come back and maybe fight an up and coming wrestler like a Braun Breaker or other superstars from NXT, maybe that could be beneficial to the person that he's working with. But it'll be definitely interesting for sure to see what transpires if he does in fact return.
And Michael, do you think Brock could be on a short list for a lot of guys, or would it be a little bit too harmful for their career because Brock would probably get out on the win there at WrestleMania?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, see, you know what? I think if you're looking for the best match possible, you need a guy who's going to call the match to Brock and Brock respects. We've seen that, Brock is still a great athlete, even though he's approaching 50. And we've seen in the past that there are certain guys he will have a great match with. AJ Styles and CM Punk come in particular, where if Paul Heyman respects him, Brock Lesnar will respect him, or something like that along those lines, where the level of which they will have the great match will be elevated. Roman Reigns is another one where that's the case. So I don't want him in there with just anyone. I want him in with somebody where it's clear Paul Heyman is high on the kid or guy, and therefore Brock Lesnar will do a great match with. Because Brock Lesnar has a lot of great talents in the ring. He's a great athlete. He's strong. He's quick. He flips well. He takes a bump really well. And he does this thing that no one ever talks about. It's such an underrated thing in wrestling where when someone hits you with a high impact move, Brock Lesnar is the king of kicking out at 2 3/4. Like he is the best at kicking out at like 2 9/10, right? So he's got a lot of skills in the ring. He just doesn't always like to bring it out because, he's Brock. He does what he wants. But I think if you're gonna do it, you got to get a guy who he respects. And I think that guy, in my opinion, is Seth Rollins. I think that at this current stage, from an athletic point of perspective, to a respects the guy perspective, to a understands ring psychology perspective, I think Seth Rollins. I know they've done that before. I know they've done Drew McIntyre before, but I think he's another guy. Why not Sami Zayn? Why not Sami Zayn? Maybe Jey Uso could get a nice little bump from there, but Jey Uso's got to win. Jey Uso's got to win. I think that's the thing. He's got to win. So there's a couple. I like Braun Breaker. I like that idea of Braun Breaker. It's just that Braun Breaker really hasn't said any, like he hasn't really made a lot of noise lately, right? So a loss to Brock Lesnar doesn't really help him much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of great.
And I forgot to mention too, like as a possible opponent, Gunther. Because I know that he's been wanting to face Brock for a good while now. So I don't know if Brock feels the same way that Gunther feels about wanting to face each other, but that would definitely be a very I could definitely see that being a very good match if that were to happen.
Yeah, that slipped my mind too. I wasn't thinking about Gunther, but I think now him seeing Gunther's rise, I think that would make sense. It would be great, maybe even for like a retirement match too, if he ever wants to do that one day. But in terms of other guys, like one that has been popping up has been Jacob Fatu, and he's been presented so strong. But going into the Royal Rumble, is this a guy that you should not put in the Rumble just because of him being thrown out? Or should they have him go in and give him the Kane treatment of throwing everybody out?
I mean, so that's the thing, right? Like with Jacob Fatu, and this is the trouble with when you present somebody is so over and so strong, is that at some point they gotta lose. They gotta take a 1, 2, 3 or look bad. And so now the dilemma is, you can put him in these great match scenarios, but he's clearly not going to win. And so if he's not going to win, does it serve him well to, have an injury and stay at home? Right. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. He's taken a bump before and stayed down. I'm pretty sure he's been pinned before. Very rarely, but it's happened. I think if, I don't know, like John Cena were to have a Herculean effort and throw him out along with somebody else, kind of like how they did Nia Jax when Nia Jax got hit with everybody's special move and she got thrown out when she first debuted or like was first like kind of coming up in the scene. I think that would be just fine. But he's got to eliminate like 5 or 6 people. Like they got to go and they got to look like they got thrown by like a rocket cannon. Like they got just like absolutely catapulted off that rope. So yeah.
Be a good one. Like, Aaron, do you think that Jacob Fatu, if he is in it, needs a Kane treatment of throwing like 11, 12, 13 out? Or would that just ruin his presentation when he gets thrown out?
Yeah, I think it'd be better more along the lines of what Michael said, like maybe throw out 5 or 6 guys to really show his strength and that, and just also to like being in his first ever Royal Rumble match, to have a really good impression. And also to in front of a massive stage in Indianapolis. And then, I could definitely see him maybe last at least 20 minutes. I'm hoping he lasts at least 20 minutes. And who knows, maybe he could always be one of the guys in the final four. In the, he could always be one of final four and maybe have maybe it comes down to maybe him of one other person, or, if he is in the final four, then the other three just kind of gang up and get him eliminated. But I could definitely see him having a good showing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Should be fun to watch there. That's a Royal Rumble of 2025. Now we're just gonna like reminisce a little bit on past Royal Rumbles, because this one's gonna have to live up to some of the past ones, because every year there's it seems to be every other year the men's match will be horrible and then the women's match will be better, and then you do have years where a few years ago you see Shane McMahon come out and he's in the final few and it's not well received online. So Aaron, I'll start with you on this one. Is there like a past match that has a lot of replay time for you where you've gone back and seen and just enjoyed over the years?
Yeah, recently, I've the one where in 2020, right, when, just before COVID and, Edge and, returns, has that big return, even though he didn't win, but, with him and then coming back after all these years, and then with Drew McIntyre winning, that was a very entertaining Royal Rumble to watch. And then, yeah, and then also, I keep replaying, usually, in January, I usually replay the 2001 Royal Rumble, where Stone Cold Steve Austin wins his third ever Royal Rumble match, which is the all-time. And then also I always like the 1998 Royal Rumble match, where Austin, of course, he wins that one as well. But then during that match is with Mick Foley, he enters the Royal Rumble match 3 times as, one as Mankind, one as Cactus Jack, and one as Dude Love. And that was always that was always funny to see, right? Where he's he's the only wrestler to enter the Royal Rumble multiple times, just as different characters.
Those are good. And Michael, now with all the Royal Rumbles on Netflix, is there one that really sticks out to you from the past that you've gone back and watched over the past few years?
I don't really watch all of it in its entirety, but there was one. The one that gets me was the '05 Rumble, where John Cena comes back from the torn pec. Was that '05 or '06? I can't remember.
Where it came down to him and Batista, right?
No. Not when Vince McMahon tore his.
Yeah, that was a classic.
Not that one. But the one where John Cena tore his pec the year before, and they didn't know if he was going to even make it to WrestleMania. And he comes back out, and it was in Madison Square Garden. And he comes back out, and the crowd comes unglued. Right?
That's a good one.
That one, I think, was good because of that. It's you saw it with Cody. It's so devastating. It's such a crazy injury to have. And for him to come back in such a short amount of time, and the crowd was juiced, absolutely juiced. So that one's a good one. I really liked the where Shawn Michaels enters as number 1 and then wins it. That was a good one as well. I really, really liked that one because it was just, you see a lot of Royal Rumble's tactics now in that match. It's a little slower, and definitely in some ways doesn't age well, but I just really, really liked that it's such a foreshadowing of what WWE will try nowadays. So yeah, those are my 2 big ones.
Yeah, all great ones there. I do like I don't know, maybe because we were kids at the time, I like the earlier 2000 ones. I'll maybe watch those once in a while. There's also the famous one that never gets talked about, 2004 with Chris from Edmonton, the Crippler. It's he who shall not be named on WWE programming. So that was a good one. He beat Big Show. Now I guess they'll probably just show Big Show jumping over the rope and no one eliminating him, and they didn't have a winner that year. But that's a good one. And in terms of just the last month, before the last time we did a roundtable, Michael, you were getting ready to get back in the cage, and you got your big win. You made some top fives and put on a show there, and now you have some news that you're going to be returning. You cut a fire promo for the promotion. Just want to give our viewers here and listeners more info on when you're going to be returning, who your opponent is, and how they can follow along.
Yeah, so the unfortunate part about it is the fight is on February 1st, which is the same day as the Royal Rumble. But the fortunate part is it's on the East Coast, which means it is ahead of the Royal Rumble by a couple hours, because Royal Rumble starts at 8. This one starts, and the men's match is probably going to be the last one on the card. And this card starts at 6. I will be fighting 8th, I believe 8th or 9th on the card. My opponent is Rory Gillis, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Really high level MMA fighter, won a couple championships down in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. They're under the FLA banner. So he's a very good fighter, proven fighter. And it seems like that's what I'm getting. Like, just every time we're getting good fights and very, very tough matchups to prove myself. And yeah, we've been training hard, really, really hard. My coach had like a conniption because I basically exposed the game plan online, apparently. I was like, oh, yeah. But but the whole thing is that we know what he does. We like him. He's a great fighter. But I'm going in there to win because I think I'm a better fighter. So there it is. And yeah. Come out, buy yourself a ticket if you're going to be in the area. But if you're not going to be in the area, it's available pay-per-view. Go to the website fightleagueatlantic.com, and you can actually purchase the pay-per-view on that website. And yeah, let them know that Michael Asiffo sent you there. So that will be a fun fight. I'm excited. I know Gavin Tucker's going to be there too. So, or I think he's like training somebody who's gonna be on the card as well. So it's got some UFC. It's got a little bit of a sprinkle of UFC in there too as well. So if you want to take a look, be my guest.
Highly recommend that. And again, for our viewers here, journalistic integrity goes outside the window when we're talking about your fight, because we are rooting. Opponent doesn't matter. We're rooting for you. So there's no journalistic integrity on our end here for that fight.
Thanks, boys.
And just on it, was this like a quick turnaround considering like where your last one was and like training for this one, or is it along the same lines?
So here's the secret. The secret is that I was actually going to face. This was actually going to be my comeback fight. What was going to happen is I was going to face him in Halifax. So that was actually going to be the fight that was going to happen. But the problem with Ontario commissions and MMA is paperwork. You got to get the paperwork settled and through. And my team figured, and then also flights. So the way it worked out logistically, it was just going to be hard to be able to get out to Halifax and get the letter of good standing from Ontario's commission in time, because at the time that like I wanted to come back, it was like a month remaining and I had to get the MRI done and I had to get the blood work done. And you know how public health is here. So to get all that done and then send the letter was just going to be harder. So we took the chance of just getting the stuff done here. And believe it or not, I didn't actually even get the MRI done. What I did is I got an ECG done, and that was considered of good standing in Ontario, which is not considered good standing of New Brunswick. Very dry information, but all that to say is that I couldn't get it done in time over there. So I actually got it done here. But originally, the opponent and the fight was exactly going to be that November 16th card. And for reasons that I just mentioned earlier, we actually decided to go with a card in Ontario, and we faced a good opponent in Cesar Bonilla, and the fight went how the fight went, which I'm very proud about. But now we're on to this one that was originally planned, and once this one is done and dusted, we'll kind of move on. But yeah, that's the secret. The secret is that this was always supposed to be the fight.
That's good. And again, like, best of luck there. You're going to be on the East Coast, so that should be fun. For all the fans there, highly recommend you check that out. And before we go here, Aaron, I'll ask you one final topic there. We were talking about like AEW before, like the fans haven't been showing up in the arenas, so now they're in smaller venues. What are your thoughts on just the state of AEW right now? Because when we went last year, it was a fun atmosphere seeing Adam Copeland come out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was a jam-packed show, very entertaining. Crowd was engaged from start to finish. Highlighted with the that main event match between Edge and Christian. Yeah, in terms of the state of AEW, like, I see it, like, unless things don't really improve, like, I see it, it's on the decline, huh? With obviously the crowds being one where they would be in arenas, and now they're kind of, like, as you said, into like theaters and the smaller venues, which is surprising because, the talent is still the same, basically, with Edge there and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston and, and Britt Baker, all those, all the wrestlers there, and Chris Jericho as well. So, like, the talent hasn't really changed yet. The crowds have been going down. It is definitely something for them to really investigate in terms of, like, why is why are we losing popularity and this and that. Hopefully things can get better. Hopefully they can return to filling out arenas and regaining popularity that they had a couple years ago. Maybe the whole decline might have started with the whole CM Punk, with the how they leaked the video. How they showed the video. On Dynamite that one time, and then it kind of backfired in their faces. That could be a reason as to why the start of the decline. But yeah, it'd be definitely great to see AEW get much better so that it can be a really strong competitor once again to WWE.
Yeah, and even, like, looking at their roster, it's stacked in terms of, like, in-ring work, and they have that big one, All In, coming up in Texas. They're going to be in a stadium for that, and it looks like they've been teasing Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, and when we were at the show last year, Okada, the reception he got was crazy. And I remember at Forbidden Door, Kenny Omega was like a god over there when he came out. Michael, do you think that could turn them around, Omega versus Okada in the States?
Man, it's so interesting because you've seen their match and you've seen their work, and you're like, yo, there is no reason why this shouldn't be selling out in America. But it's just the hype for AEW has died down. And I think Aaron alluded to it. I think ever since the CM Punk situation, AEW has just kind of looked like a bunch of they look immature. They looked immature then, they look immature now. And they look like they're kind of a carny promotion in comparison to WWE, which looks like a better production. And I think that's the reason why a lot of their stories don't get received well, because it seems like the proverbial value brand snacks in comparison to the Twinkies and the Hostess cupcakes, not necessarily bad, but is the lesser thing. And I think getting some good matches on the card, like an Okada Omega, can help, for sure. It's just that the problem is that Okada hasn't really made a lot of noise since coming on to AEW and having that great early push with part of the EVPs. And Omega has basically been on the shelf. So you're not, I don't know if they're even going to have the same kind of matches that they had in New Japan.
It's going to be interesting to see, because like when I see AEW, it's giving me those vibes of looking at like PFL Bellator, and kind of want them to go on the right track there. But on that note, this Saturday is going to be an eventful one, February 1st. Michael back in action, Royal Rumble. Eventful day, eventful night, and hopefully it all works well for all of us involved, and wish Michael all the best there. But guys, this has been a great roundtable, first of 2025, first of many. And for all our viewers who stayed and listened and watched this, always check out our Millions page, where we have all our content and merch, and stay up to date with everything that we're doing there. So until next time, take care, everybody.